Imagine this. You're caught between caring for your kids and trying to manage the rising cost of your aging parents' care. It's not something in the distant future. It's happening right now in homes like yours across the country. The financial disaster facing Generation X isn't simmering quietly anymore. It's here, and it's only getting worse. Stick around because this situation is going from bad to unbearable, and the choices you make now could decide your family's future. Why this matters? Well, half of families are watching their parents burn through their life savings just to cover the basic costs of care. And here's the thing. These are just basic. But as parents get older, most will need more assistance. This means assisted living, nursing homes, or 24-hour care. And those costs escalate quickly. The national average for assisted living is $4,500 a month, and many will need even more care than that as their health declines. The average family spends over $10,000 a year on childcare. Imagine trying to juggle both while saving for your own future. It's impossible. The median net worth for retirees is around $266,000, but 60% have less. Multiply the average cost of assisted living by just a few years and retirement savings are wiped out. The 2020 AARP Long-Term Services and Support Scorecard found 53% of Americans over 65 will need long-term care at some point, and Medicare doesn't cover assisted living or nursing home care. Families are left to fend for themselves. By 2030, the cost of assisted living is expected to rise by 25%, and for full-time nursing care, the increases could be even steeper. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the average cost of a private room in a nursing home is expected to exceed $140,000 a year by 2030. These projections show a bleak future where most retirees' savings will be insufficient to cover even a few years of care. But let me tell you about my experience. I was lucky that in the early 1990s, my parents had purchased a traditional long-term care insurance policy, the kind that is no longer available today. It was a big help, but even with that policy, there were times when we were laying out an additional $15,000 a month, paying for services the policy didn't cover, and the costs were overwhelming. Until you've lived through the stress, the fear, the tension, the pain, and the sadness, and the struggles of caring for an aging parent, you can't imagine how this situation can break you in so many ways. Sleepless nights, constant worry, and the creeping realization that no matter what we did, it was never enough. The guilt of not being the caregiver I wanted to be was crushing my wife and I as we juggled work, running our lives, and the emotional weight of not doing enough for the man who raised me. And this was without kids at home to care for. For families trying to handle both eldercare and childcare, it's an impossible situation waiting to implode. There's no avoiding this. The longer people live, the more care they need, and the more expensive it becomes. Meanwhile, wages aren't keeping up and costs are skyrocketing. You can try to ignore it, but it won't stop this financial disaster from landing on your doorstep. Longer lifespans mean more people will require long-term care, but stagnant wages and rising costs leave millions unprepared. The U.S. birth rate is declining, which means fewer workers to support Social Security, and the cost of living keeps going up. Life expectancy may have increased, but that doesn't mean life gets easier. It means more years of expensive care, more years of watching savings disappear, and fewer options to escape the squeeze. If this crisis isn't addressed, families will face financial disaster. You'll be forced to choose between covering your kids' expenses or making sure your parents receive the care they deserve. Without solutions, Generation X will be financially wiped out, unable to save for their own retirement, and the burden will shift to their children, creating a vicious cycle. Now let's look at the proposed solutions from our presidential candidates and see which seems more equipped to handle this disaster. Kamala Harris wants to expand Medicare to include in-home senior care, easing the financial burden on families. Her plan would use Medicare drug price negotiations to save $456 billion over 10 years while raising taxes on high-income earners to fund expanded health care. Additionally, she aims to reform childcare costs, capping them at 7% of a family's income and increasing the child tax credit. However, these tax increases are targeted, focusing on high-income earners, while the middle class would see expanded tax credits and financial relief. The goal is not to burden working families, but to provide direct help to those struggling with both childcare and eldercare costs. Donald Trump's plan focuses on tax cuts for corporations and high-income earners, with no specific child care relief measures. His push for privatizing Medicare would give seniors vouchers for private insurance, but here's the catch. Privatized plans often provide less coverage for long-term care services like nursing homes or extended in-home care. This means families could face higher out-of-pocket costs, and many might find themselves having to pay more for care that is currently covered by Medicare or Medicaid. Under privatized Medicare, the burden of long-term care shifts even more to individual families, which could lead to reduced access to essential services. While tax cuts have helped businesses grow, they don't address the long-term crisis families are facing with the rising cost of eldercare and childcare. What's missing is a plan to protect your family's savings from disappearing under these skyrocketing costs. This crisis isn't some distant issue. It's already here, growing faster every day. The costs are going up, the pressure is mounting, and families are caught in the middle. The time bomb is ticking. So what are you going to do? We can choose a path that helps protect our families, or we can let this disaster overtake us. What's your plan? Post your thoughts below, and let's find a way to solve this crisis before it is too late. Hey, I've got this video for you to watch next. See ya.